I'm Forrest, and this is part two of how I rebuilt my nervous system. I'm actually dividing this into three parts. So I'm today is going to be the things that I'm still working on, what changes I've been able to make and what that looks like in my life, and then where I'm heading now after uh like moving kind of into a maintenance phase instead of like a triage rebuild phase. Um, okay, so the things that I'm still working on, or things that uh things trigger is a really strong word, but things that are still that can still like kick me into either like an emotional flashback or abandonment melange. Here's a list of those things. Um, Waiting for people is I've had this experience over the past couple, I don't know, a little bit of time, couple weeks maybe, where it's like nobody's being a jerk, but like something happens and plans get a little wacky, or I end up early. Like one of the things I mentioned this in the last video, um, where I slowed everything down. Part of that has been stopping rushing around, like leaving more time to get places or leaving more time to like actually planning not to arrive on time somewhere, but a little early. And what that means, in addition to the fact that sometimes plans just change, what that means is that I'm somewhere sometimes early to places and to things, and my system has a response to that still. Um, I honestly like this is one of those things where I at this point I might just have to be like, oh yeah, this is a thing for me. Like I like this to me it relates to waiting up for my dad, like I said in the last video. Um, and that it's just hard. It might always be one of those things that I'm like, yeah, I that might not be ever like great. Um, Sudden shifts in plans can be similarly like kick me up into like a like an emotional flashback essentially. And again, this is not like people are being flaky, although it can feel that way when it's happening, but it's more like, I don't know, we're busy and sometimes stuff has to change. And so if that happens, if there's like shifts or multiple shifts in plans, like that's my system has a hard time with that. Um, Relentless positivity is another one. And I feel in my dear little heart that I am one of the most positive people ever. Like, I love humanity. I love being human. I love so much about life and living life. And it is super hard for me to sit in a conversation where everyone or at least one person is going like, yeah, but it'll all work out. Oh yeah, but it'll all work out because that just feels like it's so in denial to me. Like it might work out and it might not. And I feel like it's more regulating for me to go to say that, to say like, yeah, this might work out and oh, and it might not, than to be like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll all be good. But um yeah, I do have more to say about that, but I think I'm just gonna leave it there. Uh This is something that I have discovered in this work. And this is like underneath the feeling of I'm alone in the world and I have to do this myself. Like this, there was a lot of this nervous system stuff that was like, there aren't people here teaching me how to do this in a good way, and so I'm going to make it up and I'm going to do it on my own. And underneath all of that has the conversation or statement kind of running underneath stuff is that nobody wants me here. So that's still a piece of my work that I'm now deep enough into this work that I can sort that, and it feels like a real like a deep level piece of it, which once I now that I see it, it's like, oh, well, I can start I know how to work with that. So that's like DP about it, daily practice about it, which I mentioned in the other video, which is the Crappy Childhood Fairies daily practice. Uh, she teaches all about that and it's free to learn and it's absolutely incredible. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I did talk about it in the other video. Um, Yeah, so nobody wants me here is a conversation running pretty low underneath my conscious awareness that I have now caught because I'm in a regulated system, so that when it's coming up, I'm like, who in me is saying this? Like who and what are you saying? Wild. Um, oh, this one's kind of interesting to me. Um, and this didn't come up until I started doing this work either. And that is that I sometimes can't tell if I can't read people's uh idea of me, like if they like having my presence in their presence. I know that sounds kind of wild, but my best theory right now, and I'm again, I'm not an expert, I'm not a therapist, I'm not like I'm not a psychologist or I don't have any credentials. I'm just a person that has done this work and has been doing this work for the last many months. Um, yeah, like not being able to tell if what I'm saying is like a joy or welcome in the presence of others. And I feel my suspicion, my current working theory about this is that I am no longer doing a lot of codependent behaviors. So with that, I'm just like here doing and saying the things that I'm doing and saying. And then I'm not like it's not like in a people pleasing with a people pleasing motivation. And so I'm in this like new territory of going like that was really funny. Why isn't anybody laughing? Uh, or, some version of that. Like I'll say something or I'll do something and I just am kind of in this new place in my own boundaries where it feels new and strange. Um, I'm gonna say this a little bit more in the next section. Well, maybe I'll just wait till the next section when it comes up on the list. Okay, so here are the changes that I've made. Here are the real living um yummy things that I can tell and track now that I don't I 15 months or so into the process. I can feel if I'm heading into a flight response. And this wasn't necessarily happening Like several months ago, I could only catch that I was hitting a flight response once I was already like, oh no, like in kind of a an elevated state, and I wasn't catching it before then. I was only catching it when I was in like almost like a freak out, not a total freak out, but like more of a dramatic and bigger expression of it, and I can now feel it, down here at a 1 or a 2. Then that's cool. Um, I also no longer feel like I'm one step away from a flight response, which is what I had said in the previous part, in part one, that I was pretty much one conversation, one interaction, one crappy thing that happens in my day, and I'd be, you know, ah! Off the cliff. I'm able to take action in my life without indulging or denying my emotions. And I want to be really clear, this doesn't mean that I'm not feeling emotions. I actually feel emotions maybe a little stronger now. Like I cry more often, but it's like I'm crying, I'm having, something comes up, an emotion comes up, I have the emotion and then it's done. And maybe I have, maybe I'm having a boohoo about it, and then I feel it and then it goes. Imagine the possibilities if we just feel the things that we're feeling in the moment and then they don't get stuck and get all weird and tangled up inside of us. Um, yeah, so before, and I'll put a little bit finer point on this. Before I was suppressing, was doing a lot of suppressing of emotions, like I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. No, that's great. That's great. A lot of denying of emotions, or I was like kicked up in an elevated state of like too much emotion. And I feel like that is a couple different things. There's some familial patterning around that, and also some cultural patterning. Being someone who was raised a woman and who has a assigned female at birth body, it's like expected to be emotional. And feeling everything and having tons of emotion all the time, like if you have to have a conversation and the person like flips out and kicks into this like up super upset place, it is, you can't make any headway because then you're just managing the emotion, right? um I was gonna say one more thing about that and it just left my brain. Well, um yeah, I'll just let that cook and maybe it'll come back. I don't get excuse me, I don't get hooked or like caught in drama in the same way. And before, and this is a little bit, this is, some of this is because of the ancestral work that I've done, which is going to be in the next video. The next video is not on ancestral work, but it's on the more shamanic side, which I'm not going to really address in this video. So some of it is that, but also I was creating, like, if something stupid or dramatic, like not the main point of life, of my day, of a situation, of a relationship come up, and I would get fixated on it and just like pick, or chew on it. And it's like I couldn't resist getting hooked by that stuff. And that is basically gone. I'll say another kind of side part of that was being in, it's like the boundaries that I had were based in judgment, in like, oh, I'm looking at that over there and I don't like that and that's wrong. And so I know how to locate myself in time and space because that's wrong. Um, that has almost disappeared. I'm saying, I feel like I'm reporting this to you, dear viewer, and I'm like, it sounds like a little bit magical because that was so part of my personality was having this like, I really tried not to communicate this to the outside world, but like inside, there was this super inner critic, outer critic, like really telling me how the world was. And that's not there. And when it does happen, I can catch it. I can like go, oh, I think this is the inner critic, outer critic, you know, whether or not that's turned on me or the outside world. I can feel when I'm in an emotional flashback and I can catch it. I can catch myself in the emotional flashback and I have the language to go, "Oh, I think that this is an emotional flashback happening." The way this was in the past for me was that I would be sometimes in that state for weeks. Like I would be in an emotional flashback state for weeks. And this had gotten better right before I did this, right before I started the big heavy lift of this journey, but it was still like I would be gone for days essentially in an emotional flashback and just kind of like just like scritchy and itchy and like like feeling like everything was wrong or feeling like I was wrong, everything about me was wrong, or just it's that like abandonment melange, that like grief, rage, uh abandonment feeling that would come over me and I couldn't like get out of it. And so now with the daily practice and with the nervous system rebuild, I'm like able to catch it if it starts to happen, label it, and then process through it pretty quickly. Yeah. And every day is roses and sunshine and I never have any problems. I'm just kidding. There are still problems, but I can actually deal with them instead of collapsing about them. This one is super interesting to me. This one and the next one are super interesting to me. I can tell if someone else is kicking up into a dysregulated state, and I can feel it in my own body and recognize it as not me. I can go like, "Oh, this is like even um sometimes it's not even it is in person. Like that's pretty I feel like pretty reasonable if somebody is like whoosh, 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 swirling into their own thing. We're all sensitive creatures, right? Like we are tracking on each other, hopefully not in a codependent or like a energetic courting way, but we are in relationship with one another. So it's, you know, seems reasonable that we're noticing that about people. I notice it on podcasts as well, though. Like, I was just listening to this news podcast, and the news person was like, they started talking. They didn't start this way. They didn't start talking super fast, and then they sped up, and they were just like, and da 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 da. Da. And this is like a news person, right? And they just start on this like whole thing. Granted, the things that are happening right now are very dramatic and wild. And I had to turn that off because I was like, oh my God, like this person, I don't think that I need this news. I don't think I need what they're saying because it's like my heart is starting to race. Um, when this happens, when I can feel someone else's dysregulation and I notice it in my body, like my heart rate starts to elevate, or I start to get some people's dysregulation to me starts to make me really dizzy. Like I'll get oh, like I can't find my thoughts and I can't collect my, like what was I saying? Like I'll lose my train of thought. What I do, Anna Runkle talks about this in one of her videos, is I imagine you can't see this right now, but I'm like pointing at my belly button. I imagine a dial and I turn that dial down in my belly. And what I'm turning down is their energy's ability to reach me, but also my sensitivity to them. The other thing I do is that I drop an energetic grounding cord down into the earth. And then that grounding cord also goes up, all the way up into the center of the universe. When I'm with somebody that's spinning into a dysregulated state, I focus more on the down since I tend to also go up. Like naturally, my energy is uh pretty grounded, but also really effervescent. Like I'm just an effervescent, expressive, um, very movement-oriented person. So I go up and out. And so my conscientious visualization is like down, 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 down into the center of the earth. Part of that is the energy body mastery, energy body clearing practices, and I'll talk about that in the next video. Um, I'll just say a little bit more about that to give you more context. Okay. Okay, this is the other interesting one that has happened since I've been doing this work. Um, Switch legs here. I can tell when someone is telling me about me or about them. Sometimes we say things and actually what we're communicating to the person, what we are sure is them is actually us. And I didn't used to be able to decipher the difference between those things. Sounds like this, it's like so basic and elementary, but I truly didn't know the difference between somebody telling me about them and someone telling me about me. And I'm saying like I knew it in my head. I knew it in my head. I couldn't not take it all the way in and get totally collapsed by it. Now I'm just double checking this. Okay, so it's important for us to be able to have a sense of an ability. It's like a step of maturity and like relating with people that is healthy and secure, that if someone comes to us and is like, I need to talk to you about something, like this didn't sit well with me, that we can like take it in and sit with it, let it in a little bit, not all the way in and collapse about it, but like take it in and go, is that actually true? Like, do I need to do some cleanup and like repair or integrity, or I don't know, is there some more conversation that needs to be had around this? And is this actually good feedback for me? Like to be able to take that is really big. I feel like that's kind of right next to the one that I just mentioned of someone telling me about them. When it might look like it's like, Forrest, I don't like it when you blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, I think that's a you thing because I'm just here living my life. Uh, but actually being able to take feedback. There is, you guys, it is a big family pattern for me. The family that I was raised in, if you gave feedback, it you then got a whole like snowball with rocks in it thrown right back at you. Like it was not ever acceptable to go, hey, this is actually a this doesn't work for my boundaries, or this doesn't work for my life, or I just disagree with you, actually. I still like you, I still love you, but I just disagree with you. Like, and then to be able to like kind of reconnoiter and work through that respectfully, not I did not learn that at all as a younger person in the family that I grew up in. Oh. I can hear the sound of my own voice. Like this core, I don't mean my physical voice, which is cracking at the moment. I mean the sound of my soul and what's uniquely forest and uniquely me and mine to do. Amazing. Like totally amazing. I would say that it's still in my learning edge around like my exact um signal in the noise, like do this one thing like that is still little bit of a learning edge for me, but there's this huge amount of self and self-awareness and relationship with self that's opened up that is now like, oh, this is so clearly me. And again, I don't, for somebody that doesn't have this particular nervous system need, or for someone who's like just naturally super earthy, grounded, st stable, like grew up stable, maybe even like, I don't know, like that, I feel like I'm stating literally the most obvious things in the whole world. And these were not obvious for me as a lived experience. Okay. Um, I can hear the sound of my ancestors' voices and my helping spirits' voices. Um, this is, in the shamanic work, you're working with helping spirits and ancestors. I mean, not just if you're a shamanic practitioner, but like if you're just a human living well in relation to the rest of the world out there, we are interacting with um invisible energies, or I mean, I think they are visible to some people. They're not visible to me, but we are interacting with um energies that are bigger than us. And I had some honing to do, and that has been way more honed through this process where I'm like, oh, actually, this ancestor is talking to me right now. Cool. Um, and if you're not grounded and you're not in like in a solid nervous system and you're then trying to talk with helping spirits and ancestors, like you're gonna make up a bunch of weird stuff potentially, or you're gonna just talk to whoever's hanging around, and we don't want to talk to whoever's hanging around. Every disembodied spirit hanging around is not ours to talk to and deal with. That's a different topic, but that's just kind of how it is. Um, I have stopped living in a fantasy world. And I mean fantasy I'm defining fantasy as, oops, using thought and fantasies of scenarios that may never happen in the world, in my life, to escape emotional responsibility, to escape uh being in the moment, to escape a hard thing that's happening, to escape the fact. I think the the example that I gave in the other video was like if I wanted to become a day trader and all I did was like think like one day when I'm an amazing day trader, uh I'll never have any problems ever again and I'll be like rich and blah blah blah. And if I just the mind doing that is a trauma response and I didn't know that. So if the difference between it being like a fantasy to escape reality versus I actually have a vision for this in my life and I'm going to manifest this. So I'm going to take day trading classes. Um, yeah. I'm not really talking about sexual fantasy here. I feel like sexual fantasy and our engaging in thinking about and fantasizing about certain things. Um, and that we might be actually fantasizing about things like what do we call it? Consensual non-consent. Um, we might be fantasizing about that. That does not mean that we want to be raped, right? So I am going to draw a little distinction between those things, like delicious, yummy, nasty sex fantasies, and then fantasies to escape reality. Um, and I guess maybe I'll just tack on there that I think fantasizing, this is now the body sex facilitator me is coming in and being like, fantasy is super important. We want to be able to fantasize and we want to have a rich connection between our mind and um our bodies, our physical bodies. So that means our pleasure organs. Uh yeah. So we're using fantasy not to escape reality, but to be in the present moment. Okay, I'm not weepy anymore. This, again, for some people that don't tend towards this, I feel like y'all are gonna be like, whoa. Oh, good for you. Uh, but I, my nervous system used to do a thing, and this is also familial, uh, used to do a thing, is similar to the emotional thing that used to happen. I would get way too emotional. But I would do a weeping thing. Like I'd be like, I'm just like a person who cries all the time. And I just like, I can't say anything without crying. And I would be crying. I would be like, uh, any kind of like transformational work that I did, I would be weeping. That was nervous system dysregulation. Mind blown. I I feel like I could do a whole video just on that because it's so huge. It's huge to be able to clearly communicate what I have to say and not kick up into this like weepy state and then have to like manage a weepy state when all I was trying to do is communicate to someone that I really love them, you know? Okay. My red and green flag detectors are back online. Related. I can feel my body's yeses and my body's nos. And again, I feel like this whole video could just as well be called like Forrest states the literally most obvious things in the universe. Um, So I talked in the other video about how surviving trauma sometimes means that to get through certain situations, we have to take our green flag detectors and our red flag detectors and not use them and not listen to them. So my experience before this work was having to have green and red flags explained to me 100 times and still not understanding it. And then as I was doing the DP, as I was starting to rebuild secure attachment to myself, I started to get this feeling inside like, oh my God, this is a green flag. I know what a green flag is now. Or this is a red flag and I know what that is now. So I can feel yes in my body and I can feel no in my body. And this has been super interesting. I'm going to give you just a little story on this. I've been dating and no matter what, I now have an agreement with myself that if my body says no, even if I like the person a lot, and even if I um am super attracted to them, and I'm like, I might even still be in the like maybe, like I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes yet, but I just need more information. I'm in this like sussing out discovery phase with somebody. If my body is like, nope, then I listen to that and I just bow out of it respectfully. Like um I don't have to know why my body is saying no. It's just that it's like this is a no. I usually am like hopefully delicate about saying like, hey, I'm just not quite feeling the vibe here. But yeah, I'm not like my body's saying no. And so yeah, I'm not like rude or snippy about it. But it is really interesting because there's been several absolutely delightful people that I've dated or gone on a few dates with, and I am just like, my body's my body's saying nope. I feel like another part of this is choosing to listen to that. I didn't always have the ability not to just steamroll over that feeling of no. And now I'm actually listening to it. And yeah, it's really cool. Okay. And the last one in this list is I have an ability to state boundaries. Again, this is another like Forrest states literally the most obvious thing about boundaries in the whole freaking world. Um, this is my stand-up set on obvious nervous system things. Okay, so I can now set boundaries and hold the line without having to be a butthole, without getting triggered, and without those boundaries needing to be like a castle wall with a moat and like it used to be. I grew up essentially not being able to set boundaries. So getting any boundaries that I had kind of stripped away. And so I learned to just have no boundaries, which is a problem. It's like that's not good. We want boundaries. We want boundaries to be where we start to interact with people and have that like, okay, my boundaries are meeting your boundaries, and now we're gonna like relate to each other, but we still get to be ourselves. We still get to maintain our sense of self and agency and sovereignty. I grew up with none of that. So the boundaries that I had were me going like nothing, 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 nothing. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then when that boundary came down, you better look out. Like it was coming down sharp, mean, nasty. Um, Very pointed, like really intense, like intensity turned up to an 80. And I don't have to get to 80 because 80 was where I had to be to have any boundaries at all when I was a kid. And then, I adulted around all of that. I was on my own since I was 18 and or I guess 19 is kind of more accurate when I started having my own lease and stuff. But if there was a boundary, it was like so intense. And now I actually have enough space in my nervous system to be like, you know what? That doesn't work for me, but this works for me. Or can we talk about this thing? Because I feel like it crossed something for me. Can we have a conversation about it and like be in this like yummy negotiation or like figuring out what works for both of us? Thinking if I have anything more to say about that. I feel like that itself is um its own video as well. Okay, so where I am now after this 15 or so months is I feel like I have sometimes like weeks at a time where I'm in like a pretty balanced state. Again, doesn't mean I don't feel emotion, doesn't mean I don't get upset, doesn't mean I don't get feelings. It doesn't mean anything like that. It's just like I'm able to be in a responsive state rather than a reactive state. And I'm still honing those skills. I'm still labeling things. I'm still working on uh like really solidifying and fortifying the stability for myself. Um and then integrating all the work. Like really like integrating feeling what it's like. You guys, well, you'll know if you have been in a place of chronic dysregulation and then you get to a place of feeling regulated, it's like it doesn't hurt anymore to be the person that I am. Wild. Um, so I still do all the things that I did in the last video that I'm sorry, that I mentioned in the last video. I still do the daily practice. I still write the 10 things every night before I go to bed. I don't have those notes in front of me, so I'm not going to recount that whole list, but I still do all those things and I'm just integrating them. And then I'm going to make another video kind of putting this work together with the shamanic work. But I don't want to talk too much about that here because this video is long enough. And then I have started to cultivate some forgiveness practice. And this is like, it's really intense. Like, this is going into some emotional stuff, which is like transmuting the shame that I have felt for, you know, being in a relationship where I felt bad for asking for anything or felt like, oh God, if I say what I really want, then it's going to be a problem. Or, like, how was I in this like really beautiful relationship with this really beautiful person, but not recognizing so many red flags? And at this point, me, right? It's not this other person. Um, and yeah, the forgiveness work is looking like, well, for right now, it's me repeating there's a Buddhist forgiveness prayer that I don't have in front of me. Um, but it covers all the bases and it's amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna do, like I said, I'm gonna do another video linking the energy body mastery, energy body clearing practice with the nervous system work because I did a lot of like energy body slash nervous system rebuild work over the last year as well, year and a half. And um like getting my nervous system to a place where it's responsive, like I'm not in denial or indulgence, and it's responsive and I'm able to actually have agency in the world, in my life. And some of that has been through shamanic work. Is there anything else that I want to say about that? I don't think so. I hope that you have found value in these 45 or so minutes of me talking about all this stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.